Chapter 535 to 536. It didn't take long for everyone in Konoha to discover a cyan blue color covering the horizon, and immediately after that, everyone noticed a cyan streamer rushing in the direction of Konoha at an incredibly fast speed. Such strong chakra fluctuation. Is it the enemy again? We don't know the identity of the person coming towards the village. Everyone stays vigilant. Because of the chakra fluctuations sensed by several people, the village that had finally returned to calm and silence again fell into a noisy and chaotic state. It's quite easy to judge the strength of the coming party just based on the extraordinary chakra fluctuations and the astonishing speed at which the other party is rushing here. And since the people of Konoha don't know the identity of the other party, so whether it was Jiraiya and Tsunade or the other Konoha shinobi, everyone had a solemn and desperate expression on their faces as they prepared themselves to face the new enemy. The physical structure of the village may have been destroyed, but that doesn't mean Konoha is finished. In the hearts of Konoha shinobi, the village can still be rebuilt, but the dignity and the lives of people, if once gone, will never come back. Therefore, they must do everything they can to protect the lives of people in the refugee shelter and the dignity of the strongest shinobi village. For this reason, even if they have to continue sacrificing themselves, they are more than willing to do so. And while everyone was preparing for the upcoming battle, Tsunade and Jiraiya glanced at Homusubi, who was also looking in the direction of the incoming cyan streamer. Although they can't see Homusubi's expression under the mask, both Jiraiya and Tsunade were still able to deduce that the threat is not too great because Homusubi seemed extremely calm, as if everything is under control. Whoosh! Accompanied by the piercing whistling sound, the cyan streamer fell from the sky and steadily landed in the village. As the cyan chakra wrapping around the body of the person faded, everyone got a clear sight of the person in front of them. Looking at the black mask, along with the unique Amatsukami cloak, the Konoha shinobi soon recognized that the other party is also a member of the Amatsukami organization and breathed a sigh of relief. Along with a relieved expression, there was also a look of awe and worship on the faces of everyone as they recognized the identity of the person standing in front of them. After all, the other party is none other than Yama, the leader of the mysterious Amatsukami organization. After coming to Konoha village, Yama didn't waste any time in rhetoric and directly walked towards the Fujin clone lying in the distance. Seeing Kurenai squatting next to the Fujin with a bitter and saddened expression, as if she was looking at the corpse of a loved one, Yama felt a little strange. But not delving into that matter too deeply, he asked silently, "Can you give him to me?" Kurenai raised her face, and after wiping away the tears, she asked Yama, "Can you save him?" "Huh?" Fujin was stunned by Kurenai's question, then replied ambiguously, "Perhaps." Kurenai nodded silently, although she wasn't too hopeful. There were still some expectations in her heart. With Kurenai's nod, Yama quickly picked up the Fujin clone, then cast a glance at Homusubi on the side. The two nodded tacitly, then immediately flashed and disappeared from the Konoha village. After leaving the destroyed Konoha village, Yama and Itachi stopped in the forest outside the village. Yama immediately put down the Fujin clone on the ground, then weaved several hand seals and lightly tapped on Fujin's body. Poof! Instantly, with a poof of white smoke, the Fujin clone disappeared from the forest. Upon seeing Yama's action, Itachi, who was wearing the Homusubi disguise, couldn't help but ask, "Yama, Tsunade said that Fujin's injuries are extremely serious, and his physical condition is beyond the scope of medical ninjutsu, so saving him is impossible. Is that really the case? Will Fujin die?" Looking at the guilty aura that Homusubi had over him, Yama smiled slightly and said, "What she said is not wrong. Fujin's condition is really extremely bad. But you needn't worry. I have a way to save his life." Although, Yama paused here, then shook his head with a sigh. Nothing. You can rest assured that he won't die, at least not yet. After listening to Yama's words, Homusubi nodded with a sigh and finally calmed down. He understood in his heart that as long as Yama has said that he has a method to save Fujin, then there must be a way. As for what exactly that method is, now is not the right time to talk about it. So with the matter of Fujin's life out of the way, Homusubi immediately looked in the direction of the battlefield outside Konoha, where Shisui had rushed towards not long ago, quickly said, "Yama, Shisui-san went towards that battlefield to support the Gokage. I am worried about him. We should go there immediately and help." Following Homusubi's gaze, Yama also looked in the direction of the battlefield outside Konoha, and then immediately nodded. In fact, there was no need for Homusubi to remind Yama in the first place, as Yama had already known about the battle outside the village since he was controlling the Fujin clone thanks to his Byakugan vision. Because of the high purity of his Byakugan, Yama can cover up to several kilometers when using distance visioning. And since the movements and chakra fluctuations outside were no less than inside the village, so they were obviously noticed by Yama. Just based on the chakra fluctuations, Yama was able to determine that the two sides fighting there are undoubtedly the Gokage against the rest of the members of the Akatsuki organization. It's just that there was still one doubt lingering in Yama's mind, and that is the unique chakra signature that Yama perceived back then. The person with that chakra signature carries huge chakra reserves, like really huge chakra reserves, almost reaching the level of a high-tier Biju. Of course, it's not a major problem, but Yama is still surprised, as the other party not only has huge chakra reserves, but also has extremely strong strength. After all, the other party not only fought against, but also managed to suppress the surprise unit led by the Gokage. In other words, aside from Nagato, Obito, and Hiruko, there is still a member in the Akatsuki organization who has unfathomable strength, reaching the level of a Super Kage. And what's troublesome is that Yama has no idea who this person is. Therefore, he is very doubtful and curious about this person. It's just that he can't determine the exact identity of this unknown variable without going to the battlefield in person. So, without waiting even a moment, Yama converged all his thoughts and nodded to Itachi. "Let's go." "Yes." Homusubi nodded, and immediately both he and Yama rushed towards the battlefield outside Konoha. Boom, 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 boom. Another series of explosions took place on the battlefield, and Shisui retreated backwards. Fortunately, his speed is extremely fast, and this speed has only gotten faster after mastering the Sennin mode, so no matter how many explosions took place on the battlefield, they didn't hurt him in the slightest, nor was there any severe consumption of chakra. Konan's beautiful face was filled with a dignified expression as she looked at Uchiha Shisui, who is continuously avoiding the range of explosions caused by the rain of her explosive tags. Konan never expected that the combat effectiveness of Uchiha Shisui would be so high. Just trying to stop him from interfering on the main battlefield has pushed her to her utmost limit, yet she has not been able to do much. She has used all kinds of attacks she has in her arsenal. However, everything seems to be in vain. No matter what kind of attack she uses, Uchiha Shisui avoids it. Virtue to his speed. In fact, Uchiha Shisui's speed has gotten so fast after mastering Sennin mode that Konan isn't even able to see the other party with her eyes, and is purely relying on her sensory skills to perceive Shisui and is barely keep a track of his movement on the battlefield. However, this isn't helping much, because even if she is able to barely keep track of Shisui, her own speed is unable to keep up with him, so all her attacks and offensive are easily dodged by Shisui, and everything is proving to be useless. It can't continue like this. thought Conan in worry as she tried to think up some countermeasure against the enemy, but didn't really have a solution to be able to deal with Uchiha Shisui. Rao! And while Conan kept trying to keep Shisui entangled, suddenly a terrifying roar sounded from the main battlefield in the distance. As soon as the roar sounded, Conan breathed a relieved sigh and thought to herself, everyone should have been dealt with by now. And contrary to Conan's relieved sigh, Shisui's face sank upon hearing this roar. I can't let her delay me any longer. I must get on that side as soon as possible. Uchiha Shisui couldn't be more familiar with this roar. He, who participated in the summit war at Amegakure a few months ago, clearly remembers that this is the roar of the Gedomazo statue summoned by the leader of the Akatsuki organization. What's horrifying to Shisui is that the Gedomazo statue is even capable of withstanding and resisting Kuroto's golden wheel reincarnation explosion, which is simply mind-boggling to him. After all, not even his Susanoo can withstand a single attack from Kuroto's golden wheel reincarnation explosion. So, the horror of Gedomazo is not without reason. And now that Nagato has summoned the Gedomazo statue, Shisui is more worried about the situation on the side of Gokage. Worried, Shisui asked Fuwafua, who is resting around his shoulders, Fuwafua-san, how is the situation on that side? Fuwafua yawned in boredom, and while licking her paddy paw, she blinked her green eyes several times, then mentioned casually, it's not optimistic. Fuwafua's casual words only increased Shisui's worry, and he no longer bothered to care about Conan, who has been trying to stop him. After taking a deep breath, Shisui activated Susanu's defense around him, and without any care of the rain of explosive tags, he forcefully broke through the several layers of Conan's obstruction and finally arrived at the main battlefield in the distance. However, the scene of the main battlefield before him stunned Shisui. What Shisui saw is a sight of massacre. And except for 2 shinobi, everyone on the battlefield is either dead or severely injured. And these 2 shinobi, who are neither dead nor injured, are members of the Akatsuki organization with very peculiar identities. The first one is the red-haired Uzumaki Nagato, the leader of the Akatsuki organization, who stood on the edge of the battlefield with an indifferent expression, while the other one is the white, spiral-masked Toby fellow, who crouched down and curiously poked the cheeks of 2 specific shinobi. These 2 specific shinobi poked by Toby include the Kirigakure's Yondaime Mizukage Karatachi Yagura, that is, the perfect Jinchuriki of Sanbi, and Kumogakure's Killer Bee, the perfect Jinchuriki of Hachibi. Currently, both the perfect Jinchuriki were motionlessly lying on the ground, with their life and death unknown. And that's not the end of it. The Gedomazo statue behind the leader of the Akatsuki organization seemed to be absorbing the Biju chakra from the bodies of Karatachi Yagura and Killer Bee. The chakra of 2 Biju, which was dense enough to be visible to the naked eye, was constantly being sucked out of the bodies of Yagura and Killer Bee and entering inside the mouth of Gedomazo. Shifting his gaze, Shisui found hundreds of shinobi lying either injured or dead on the battlefield. With just a casual glance, he identified several known and famous faces, including the Godaime Kazekage Pakura, the Yondaime Raikage Ai, the Konoha advisor Elder Hamura Mitokado, along with several elite shinobi among them. The Godaime Kazekage Pakura was lying unconscious with several tree branches penetrating her body. The Yondaime Raikage Ai seemed to be conscious and struggling to get up, but his injuries were so serious that he was unable to. The Yondaime Mizukage was struggling as the Sanbi's chakra was being sucked out his body, while there were no traces of Sandaime Hokage as well as Sandaime Tsuchikage on the battlefield. The 5 Kage lost? Muttered Shisui with an astonished expression. The scene before him really subverted his inherent concepts and understanding of the shinobi world. Shisui never even thought that a day would come when the 5 Kage would fail, even after joining forces, and while Shisui was stunned and a little lost, Konan flew towards Nagato's side and said in an apologetic tone, "Sorry, I couldn't stop him. Uchiha Shisui's strength is several times higher than mine." Nagato shook his head lightly. "It doesn't matter." Although controlling the 6 paths of pain to attack Konoha consumed some of his chakra reserves, for the current Nagato, such chakra consumption is close to negligible and has already recovered. Therefore, even if Uchiha Shisui's strength exceeds Konan by several times, it makes no difference to Nagato, whose strength has evolved by several dimensions during the past few months. Nagato strongly believes that except for maybe the leader of Amatsukami, Yama, no one in this shinobi world is strong enough to contend with him, not Jiraiya, not the so-called Uchiha Madara, and certainly not Uchiha Shisui. Konan nodded. Then after a brief silence, she looked at Gedomazo and said with a worried tone, "Absorbing 2 bijou at the same time? Will your body be able to support it, Nagato?" Nagato said, "Don't worry. For the current me, let alone absorbing 2 bijou, even if all the 9 bijous are absorbed at the same time, it wouldn't be a problem. In the canon, it was necessary to gather all the members of the Akatsuki organization to participate in the absorption process of even a single bijou, and it would still take several days to do so. But after the perfect transplantation of Hashirama cells, Nagato's sage body has qualitatively improved. The powers of the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan are perfectly integrated and balanced in his body. Therefore, controlling Gedomazo is no longer burdensome for Nagato. At the same time, his already high chakra reserves have further grown, and because of this, Nagato can single-handedly absorb bijou in much less time compared to the canon. Although being able to absorb all the 9 bijou at the same time might be a bit of an exaggeration, absorbing 2 at the same time is not a challenge, and Nagato can do so even passively, without the slightest burden. Konan nodded lightly, then shifted her gaze towards Uchiha Shisui. Of course, Konan didn't dare to make direct eye contact with Uchiha Shisui, for fear that she would be caught in genjutsu. She just silently observed him while standing next to Nagato, and was ready to make a move to stop Shisui with everything she has, should Shisui tries to hinder Nagato from absorbing the bijou. But Konan wasn't too worried, even if Uchiha Shisui's strength is several times higher than hers. At best, it would be at the same level as Tobi, not to mention there is still Nagato present here. Don't look at Tobi's funny behavior and innocent mind. Those lying dead and injured on the battlefield are more than clear about the horror of Tobi. After all, this massacre was done by none other than Tobi. The entire surprise raid force, led by 4 Kage and comprising dozens of elite shinobi, was ruthlessly crushed by Tobi single-handedly. Nagato and Konan didn't have to make a single move. So if Uchiha Shisui really wants to stop Nagato, then he would have to get past Tobi first.